Hi, and welcome to the Examined Life. And this is episode 9, I believe. And we're going to be talking about the different types of narcissists and how they're kind of classified. Narcissism falls under the category of like a cluster B. They call them cluster B personality disorders. And on this channel, we're not about necessarily diagnosing anybody, but we're definitely into examining the types of behaviors that people who have on a spectrum. You know, narcissism is on a spectrum. You have people who are just full-blown narcissists, and then you have people who are just sort of jerks who have narcissistic traits. So the types of narcissists, there are, at least I've counted, maybe 4 different types of narcissists. And within those types of narcissists, you have, what do you call that? At least two different ways of how it manifests itself, or how it shows itself, or how they maneuver in life. So, for example, let me give you an example. The first example of you have somatic narcissists. Okay, somatic narcissists are people who are overly preoccupied with what they look like. So they tend to hang out in the gym. They watch what they eat a lot. Sometimes they're really obsessed with their diet. I've had so many of them, and many of them are vegetarians, okay, or vegans, and they tend to use the fact that they're vegetarians as a way of looking down on people who eat meat. In other words, it's not that vegetarianism creates narcissism, it's that narcissists tend to be, they tend to go in that direction, so they have a reason to look down on others. So you might want to consider that as a red flag, if somebody is a vegetarian, that they could be a narcissist. Not necessarily, okay? I'm not saying that all vegetarians are narcissists, not at all. But I'm just saying that the ones that I've met, a great many of them, all the vegetarians in my life that I've known have exhibited narcissistic traits. And part of it has to do with their vanity. So somatic narcissists are slaves to what they look like. They like to be attractive. And I'm not saying that, wanting to be attractive is necessarily bad, or that it's how, I guess you should say it's to the degree that it becomes an obsession. Okay? But somatic narcissists are preoccupied with the way that they look and how they present themselves to other people. And they'll go out of their way to try and, look stunning all the time. But it's part of like the facade of because the outside looks good, the inside may not necessarily be that great. They have bad character. They're very superficial. That's what the somatic narcissist is about now, okay? You might find them at gyms working out a lot, the male narcissist, or even the female narcissist. Their diet, they're preoccupied with their diet. I mentioned that. Now, you have also cerebral narcissists. So the cerebral narcissists are the kinds of people who are preoccupied with education. So you'll find a lot of them in academia, believe it or not. And they'll have lots of degrees. Some of them, if you know somebody who has like 2 master's degrees and a PhD and all that stuff, and they're preoccupied with getting more degrees and working in universities and writing papers and stuff like that, they could be a narcissist. Okay. The reason I say that is cerebral narcissists are also very manipulative. All narcissists are manipulative, okay? More so the cerebral narcissist, though. They think they can outwit you, like life is a big chess game. And my father is a cerebral narcissist. He's not a very attractive man, but he's a cerebral narcissist. And he always, when I was a kid, he always tried to teach me how to manipulate people. And that wasn't my thing. I was never very good at it, and so I kind of was left behind in respect. So I tended to become the opposite. But I observed him, and so my father was a cerebral narcissist. So you also have spiritual narcissists. Okay, spiritual narcissists are people who are preoccupied with enlightenment. Okay, and the truth is that they're not very enlightened at all. They just like to go through the motions of it. They go to yoga classes. They study all these Swami guru stuff, and at the end of the day, they're not really interested in being enlightened. They don't really want to know the truth. If you challenge them, they'll get angry. So then you'll really see their true colors. So that's 3. You have somatic, you have cerebral, you have spiritual, and then you have the heroic narcissist. The heroic narcissist is somebody, they're often like first responders. They're paramedics, firemen, police officers, and their addiction to the adrenaline rush. And they, you might think, well, they're very noble, and because they're heroes and stuff like that, right? But you also have to think about it in terms of they're like I don't know if a good example, nurses. Okay, some nurses who have they call it the Munchausen syndrome, where they'll have these nurses who work in like the delivery ward or the baby ward, and then they'll create a situation where a baby is in danger, and then they'll save the baby. Everybody's coming to rescue the baby, and then they show up and they give CPR or something, but the truth was they're the one who caused the problem in the first place. It's called Munchausen syndrome, where nurses will endanger a child and then come in and try and save them, and then thereby getting accolades for being such a hero. It's called Munchausen. Anyways, it's a form of the heroic narcissist. So you have people who go into those fields so that they can be heroes, and we can look up to them and that they're heroes. Not everybody. Again, I'm not saying that everybody who does that is a narcissist, but there definitely is people who go into being like first responders. They like the adrenaline rush. That's why they go into it partly. So they're getting a kick out of it, So now, how do you break them down? There's within those 4 types of narcissists. There are probably actually more than that. Those were just 4 of them that I recognized in my life. But within those, you have 2 different types of narcissists. You have an overt narcissist and you have a covert narcissist. Now, the difference is that an overt narcissist, you can probably pick one out pretty clearly, in that they don't really try to hide it so much. I mean, they're always right. They never apologize for anything. Sometimes they're loud. They're bullies. They're what's the word? You can have, like, for example, I'll give you an example. If you like Arnold Schwarzenegger, then he is what he is. I mean, he doesn't even bother to kind of hide it. I mean, he is a bit of a narcissist. I mean, he wouldn't be Mr. Universe or something like that if he wasn't. But he's a somatic narcissist, and he's somewhat of an overt narcissist. And he gravitates to things like becoming governor of California. Okay, power position. We see him as a Terminator, right? I mean, again, this these action heroes. There's a lot of that. This narcissism that falls into it. It overlaps each other, right? Even though he's playing a character. But he is definitely a good prime example of what a narcissist is. Now, you might like him. Say, yeah, I like Arnold, Yeah, I mean, but you don't really know him. You're not friends with him. So being a friend with him might be very difficult. I mean, but he's like one of those overachievers. And that's one of the things about overt narcissists is that they can be definitely overachievers. Cerebral narcissists, as I said, some of them are like top professors in academia. Some of them are, they just like to they like to be manipulated. They like being admired. Okay, all of them like being admired. Now, when we talk about covert narcissists, they're almost the exact opposite, but only in the sense that the way they manifest their narcissism is more hidden. It's like almost in reverse, kind of. So, for example, a lot of covert narcissists they'll appear to be very humble, and I'll give you an example of this. Recently, I talked about this lady on another video. She claims to be the embodiment of the divine feminine on earth. That's how she described herself. And she's a dance teacher. Okay, but the thing is that she doesn't want to be called a teacher. Even though she's been studying this stuff for quite a while, she doesn't want to be called a teacher. And one of her students, who, not me, but a friend of mine who is a student of hers, she said to me, no, she's a teacher. I know she doesn't want to be called a teacher. Okay, now the thing is, the narcissist knows what they are, and they know their limitations, but they're not going to admit it. Okay, their followers, it's like a little cult, you see. Their followers will try and exalt them a little bit. So this friend of mine, she tells her, no, she's a teacher. She's been doing this for so many decades. She's a teacher, even though she doesn't want to be called a teacher. Okay. Now, it's a kind of a setup because it looks like she's humble. Because she says, I don't want to be called a teacher. Please don't call me a teacher. But the reality is that she really does want to be called a teacher. Okay, but she knows she doesn't measure up. So what she does is she puts her students in a position where they're the ones who make her a teacher, and they exalt her, right? And she's sort of like this humble, like, oh, no, I'm not a teacher, but what happens is they put her in a position of being a teacher. If she's in a situation where she has to be put to the test and she fails, she's going to turn around and she's going to blame them. And she's going to say, I told you I wasn't a teacher. Okay? So it's like this covert game that's being played, meaning that she wants to be exalted as a teacher. But she tells you that she doesn't because she feels she's humble and all that business. But she really does want to be. But she doesn't want to take responsibility for being one. So it's like this convoluted type of situation. Okay. Whereas the overt narcissists, they would say, hey, I am a teacher, and they'll accept that because they want you to look up to them more in a much more direct way. But if they get caught in something or called out on something as a teacher, they'll deny it, or they'll blame somebody else, or they'll do something else. Okay. Whereas the covert narcissist will simply get you to do it. They'll get you to exalt them by playing humble. And then if they screw up, then they can turn around and blame it on you. That's the difference between an overt and a covert narcissist. In other words, it's much more insidious. Narcissism in general is very insidious, but for the covert narcissist, it's a little more hidden. They can fly under the radar for a long time. Covert narcissists. Okay, the best way to identify a covert narcissist is to look at the people around them. Okay, the people around them are attracted to them, and then you're going to find a whole bunch of people who either are narcissistic in their own right. And if you see narcissists, if you're recognizing the narcissists around another person, the person who is at the center of it could be a covert narcissist who's pulling the strings of everybody else. Okay, so narcissists can, as I said, there are different degrees of narcissism. So a more narcissistic person can manipulate lesser narcissists. And I'm going to go into more detail on another video about a spiritual narcissist that I met recently, who is involved in this with this teacher. Actually, she's the friend that I was just talking about, who is telling me that that other person's a teacher and whatever. But she's also a spiritual narcissist, and I will go into that more detail on another video. So there you go. That's the types of narcissists we have going, as well as what they are in relation to the other cluster B personality disorders. And thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I will be doing some more videos as we go along. Thank you. Bye bye.